What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here, and this is The Walking Dead Season 9, Episode 13, Chokepoint. So overall, it's a pretty good episode. The whole romance thing going on between Henry and Lydia, it's okay. It's kind of cute, but it's not like I'm just hanging on to everything that's happening. Like, oh my gosh, are they going to get together? Like, their story of trying to figure out what to do with Lydia, because obviously she can't go back to her own people, but they're not really sure what to do with her, because if they take her back to like Alexandria or Hilltop, then that would put those people in danger. So it is kind of an interesting dilemma there. But everything between her and Henry is just not that interesting. It's more interesting, admittedly, than everything going on with Rosita. But I'm still just, most of the romances in the show just don't really interest me, because they're typically either because of convenience or because of, well, it's the end of the world, what are we going to do? Very rarely do I feel like there's true, genuine connection. There have been a few. Obviously, Maggie and Glenn were good. Rick and Michonne were nice. And then Carol and Ezekiel have been slowly growing on me. But the rest of the relationships tend to just kind of be okay or eh. Feels like a little bit of a time waster, because I want to get back to the story of how are these people going to survive? How are they going to try to get back to normal life again? And on that note, everything going on with setting up the fair is kind of interesting. The whole, we got to figure out how to get people here safely because there's dangers out there. We don't know what we're dealing with. The highwaymen popping up, a little random, a little kind of goofy almost, where essentially we're going to offer you, the chance to sort of be a part of us as long as you work for us. And they're like, nah, that's not going to work. Well, what about a movie? Are you serious? That's what gets them to agree, is you offer to show them movies. I mean, don't get me wrong, I get it. If you went that long without seeing a movie or anything really that reminded you of what society used to be like, it would be a little tempting to be like, holy crap, movies? Man, it's been over a decade. I get that. But at the same time, the fact that that's how the conflict was resolved, it felt a little bit kind of like a joke. That whole scene ended in kind of a joke. And it started pretty intense with, them showing up with all the guns and then all of the kingdom people showing up and ambushing them. It was a pretty intense setup. And then it ends on, hey, do you like movies? Just, I don't know. It's a little weird. But, I mean, I like what that sets up, having this other group of people and bringing them in. It sort of goes along with what I feel like they're trying to bring the moral of the season back to being, which is trying to work together to rebuild society. Because, again, they kind of pushed that to the side after Rick died. And now it feels like after, what's it been, like 6 or 7 episodes, we're finally getting back to, oh, right, this is what this season was building towards, right? Like, this is what we were trying to get to, was rebuilding society and working together as a group. So I'm glad that Ezekiel is trying to do that with this fair. I'm glad that Michonne wakes up and says, hey, let's go, let's try to work together, because that's what we should be seeing. We should be seeing growth in these characters. We shouldn't see them constantly regressing back into, no, we can't trust anybody, close the walls, we're not doing anything. Like, that's not how you rebuild a society from nothing. So yeah, I'm excited to see where that goes. Everything, though, with Daryl and Connie, whose name I'm finally starting to remember, and then, of course, Henry and Lydia being tracked down by Lydia's group, the Whisperers, all of that was pretty interesting. And it was intense. It was fun to see, all right, they've got this nice little hideaway that Connie and her group had found before and stayed before. All of that was a good build-up. We see that they're setting up a bit of a trap, but even then, the Whisperers are still, they're no pushovers. They are strong. They have become strong because of how they live. And there's an argument to be made, because I didn't talk about this, but in a previous episode, Lydia did talk about whenever you live in a society like this, you go soft, and you can't be soft out here. And there is an argument to be made that that is true. The Whisperers, because of how they live, they are probably going to be a little bit more gritty, a little bit more used to this world, because they're not trying to live outside of the walkers and all of that. They're not trying to get away from that by building these walls. They're living as a part of it. So I feel like that does give them a little bit of an edge, because even though there are some people like Daryl who do go out and they still keep themselves honed, they still go out and they hunt, and they do live off the land a little bit, being inside, being around other people, it does get you to rely on them. And in that, there is strength in relying on others, but there also can be individual weakness. When you try to go back out after having relied on people for so long, it can make you weaker than you were before. So I do like how they're kind of showing that a little bit, where even though Daryl and Connie and all of Henry and Lydia, they got this plan set up, they had this trap set up, the Whisperers are still strong enough to put a little bit of a twist in their plan, and maybe things didn't go exactly how they thought they were going to, because they thought, oh, it's just a few people, we got this. But those few people are still pretty strong. And obviously, Beta, yeah, he's just a beast. I'm not surprised at all, because when you see him, you just look at him and go, yeah, he's going to be difficult to take down. So the fact that Daryl knocking him down an elevator shaft didn't kill him, not at all surprised by that. I assume he'll probably be kind of the mini boss almost before you get to Alpha. I don't know when that's going to happen, because I'm pretty sure that I've seen that the Whisperers do continue on to season 10, which I guess kind of makes sense in a way. I'm not as huge on the Whisperers as I was on like Negan and the Saviors, but looking at what they did with them, they introduced Negan and the Saviors at the end of one season. They had a whole season where Rick's group were dealing with them, and then the next season was about fighting back. With the Whisperers, they introduced them halfway through this season, so I'm not surprised that they're not going to be taking them out by the end of it, and it'll probably carry on into next season. But I do wonder if maybe Beta will be taken out by the end of the season, or if he will continue on into the next, because he does seem like a good kind of final fight for the group this season before they decide to go try to take down Alpha next season. Who knows? But yeah, he definitely showed why he's going to be hard as hell to take down. And the fact that he works for Alpha, it does say a lot about her. The fact that she has somebody who is so strong and so brutal willing to work for her and willing to work under her. Whether that's his own infatuation with her or whether that's her strength, we haven't really seen yet. But I like that setup. I like how they're building this up, and they definitely are getting me anticipating what's going to come next. But yeah, I think that's about it as far as my thoughts on this one. So on to the next of these two. I'll see you there. And now for episode 14, Scars. So there's both good and bad in this episode for me. First of all, the good part of it is finally finding out kind of why Michonne did, I guess, turn her back on the ideas that Carl and Rick were pushing towards, bringing everybody together and all that. I'm glad they at least gave us a reason, because I was a little upset that they just made Michonne go, nope, closing everything off. And especially because, it's what both Rick and Carl wanted, and just because Rick died and Carl died, she's like, nope, not doing it anymore. It was a little disrespectful for their memory, but knowing this story, it does make a little bit more sense as to why she would want to close off the borders. I mean, going through what she went through, seeing her high school friend turn so crazy and then having to hack all these kids down because they're trying to kill her, yeah, that would be emotionally scarring. I get that. The bad part of it, though, is, first of all, it did go on a little too long, and what I mean by that is it's a flashback, and we have so many moments of, oh my gosh, guys, it's so tense. Are they going to make it? Are Michonne, Daryl, Judith, and RJ, are they going to make it, guys? I don't know. I mean, this is a flashback, and we know they make it in the future, but they could die. There were too many moments of that where it's just like, and we had to take like a moment of, oh my gosh, this is scary. And it's not. So those pauses didn't really work. They weren't building tension. They more so felt like they were buying time to get to the end of the episode. And the other thing, too, is that while I like what the story shows, like I said, showing why Michonne turned her back on the whole idea of society rebuilding, I wish we could have gotten a little bit more explanation about what's going on with her old friend and all of these kids. Why? Because the only explanation they gave us was, oh, they have to be strong, unlike me before. So I'm guessing something happened. She did say all of the adults in their group died, so maybe she felt like she wasn't strong enough. But I don't know. It just, for a group this crazy, where essentially, I guess they're going out to groups like Alexandria? Are there any other groups like Alexandria out there besides the Hilltopping Kingdom? Are they just like showing up, oh, we're so weak, we're so poor, can you help us? And then stealing their supplies? Is that what they're doing? And if so, then how come Hilltop and the Kingdom didn't deal with them? Were they doing this for a long time, or were they just on the move and then they happened upon Alexandria? Like they had this little base, it seems like, where they were setting up and hiding out. So I don't know. It seemed like it was something that should have gotten a little bit more explanation as to why Michonne's friend turned crazy, why she was recruiting all these kids, why all these kids were following her. I mean, obviously kids are a little bit more impressionable, so it would be a little bit easier to convince them like, hey, we have to be strong. And if she's somebody that they looked up to before they all went crazy, then it would make sense that, oh, well, we trust her. She's been our leader for a while. It's a lot easier to control kids than it is to control adults. So, but I don't know. It's definitely a story that I needed a little bit more backstory, because leaving a lot of what they were going through vague makes me feel like, okay, good story to make me see why Michonne is not trusting anybody, but you've left me with a lot of questions that are probably not going to be answered because her friend and all of these kids are now dead. So we're never really going to find out what happened, why did they do all of this, outside of just, oh, we have to be strong. Seems a little odd. Especially, it seems weird to me, like, sometimes in shows like this, when you have somebody who's crazy, whenever you don't know at first, it kind of begs the question, how are they able to hide the crazy? Like, they are nuts, clearly. Like, they think that you need to just be on your own. She has all these kids working, these people that are living in society, they're the crazy ones. We need to kill them and take their stuff. They're a little crazy. They mark their targets with, little, what's it called? Like a cowhide tanner type of thing. Like, what is that called? It's going to bug me now. I can't believe I've forgotten. Oh, cattle prod, I think. I'm pretty sure that's what that is. But they tag people with it and they kill them. Like, that's what they said. We mark them and then we kill them. So clearly, they're going around murdering people. They're crazy. So how do they turn off the crazy and come in, hey, we need help. Could you please help us? Please? Like, I don't know. It seems a little weird that there aren't many crazy people, I feel like, in this world that could just turn off the crazy to put on a little show so that way they could be let in before they turn on people. Like, I get the idea of, yes, there are some, I guess, people who can put on an act even though they're crazy. Like, it's obviously happened before. You think about, like, a Ted Bundy who's such a charmer, but then secretly he's killing people. Like, I get that can happen, but it's really weird for me that this is a whole group of them just sort of doing that. Like, turning on the charm, turning on the, oh, poor pitiful us. There are a bunch of kids doing this too. And then they're just like, nope, we're actually crazy this whole time. Ooh, you didn't see it, did you? Because we're good at hiding it. All of us, even the kids. We're crazy. We gotta kill you now. It seemed very odd. And again, I wish we could have gotten just a little bit more information about just this group and why they're doing what they're doing, how it all happened. But at the end of the day, again, it served its purpose. It gave me a reason for why Michonne is untrusting. The scene between her and Negan was also really good. Good setup for what comes later in the episode whenever Michonne realizes that she needs to talk to Judith and trust her more. Because she did say, that they do trust their own group, even if they don't trust the people on the outside. And yet she's still lying to Judith. Like, she doesn't trust that Judith can handle all this information. So, yeah, I liked how they sort of worked it into the story. Judith leaving to go help Daryl and Connie and Henry and Lydia. I like how that also led into this story where Michonne goes to save her, and it kind of goes hand in hand with her trying to save her back in the past too. So it was a good little setup, good moral at the end of the story. A little coincidental that they just happened upon Daryl and them just out and about, like they left the night before, and then she goes and gets her, comes back to the Alexandria, gets a carriage with horses, and goes back out. And they're just like, "Oh, hey, fancy meeting you guys here." It's like, wait, what? How? So yeah, it was one of those coincidences that if this weren't a show, I'd be like, it's a little odd. But yeah, outside of that, the only other thing that really happened in this episode is we see the couple whisperers show up, see the kingdom, and see what's going on. So clearly, and I kind of figured, with the fair, I kind of figured the fair might be maybe the final thing in this season, where it is kind of everybody's going to be there. It's a good chance for the whisperers to attack and cause some damage, probably a couple important people to die. So I guess that's where this is going, but at the same time, they just found out about the fair in this episode. I would think that they would attack in the next episode, which would leave one episode for what? Or is the attack going to last 2 episodes? Something like that. I don't know. But yeah, that's it for these 2 episodes. So let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What were your thoughts on these 2? Let me know. We can talk about and discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Walking Dead reviews, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.